So we are talking about the Ghats of North Kolkata. Dr. Tathagato Niyogi of Immersive Trails and his partner Chelsea McGill guided us, a group of enthusiastic Kolkatans, through the walk from Bagbazar Ghat to Nimtola Ghat. As we all know, Bagbazar Ghat is popularly called Mayer Ghat after Sharodama, who usually took a bath in the Ganges when she resided in Kolkata. But before that, the Ghat has a history. And Bagbazar is actually not Bagh as in tiger, but Bagh as in garden. So during I think the early 1700s or say middle 1700s, there was this garden in that place which is now Bagbazar, and around the garden there was a local market. Now the Britishers used to actually auction the ownership of these markets every year. And one gentleman called Charles Perrin bought the Bagbazar, and he built a bungalow in the grounds where today's Durga Puja is actually held. So he first built the ghat to facilitate, the practice of Hindu rituals of the local inhabitants. What looks like part of an iron pillar is actually a mooring, and you'll be very surprised to know that this is the mooring to which Siraj-ud-Dowla got his ship tied so that he could invade Kolkata, because Calcutta's entry was at Bagbazar Ghat in those times, and this is 1756 if my dates are correct. And he wanted to attack the British at this point, the entry point of the city, but unfortunately his ships got stuck, and so he moved further down towards what we now know as Dalhousie, and he was successful in defeating the British there. So that is known as the Battle of Calcutta, which happened in 1756, and this was a very interesting bit of information. And another tidbit I would like to add to this is that we all know that we've been told in history books that Siraj lost the Battle of Plassey because of Mir Jafar's defection, etc. But what I learned from the historians who were conducting this walk today is that the real reason was that it was rainy season, and Siraj's troops had actually forgotten to cover the gunpowder. So Clive's troops overran them with not a single shot being fired, and that is why we lost the Battle of Plassey. Not so much because of Mir Jafar, because Siraj had 50,000 soldiers, and even if Mir Jafar, we take away the 10,000 that was supposed to leave with Mir Jafar, he would still have 40,000, and Clive only had around another 10 to 15,000, I think. Next we move to Rashik Niyogi Ghat, which is today known as Annapurna Ghat, Here, actually, the salt traders were settled around these ghats, and the salt trade was facilitated. What happened is when sometime, I forget the date, when the British decided to take all the salt production and selling into their hands, naturally this affected the salt traders, and they moved to colonies like Chandanagar, and other Dutch or Portuguese colonies, because naturally they suffered a loss since the Britishers had taken away their trade. But as told by our historians, apparently some of them came back in the 1800s. These buildings were originally salt warehouses, and later on, East Bengal refugees came and took shelter, and some of their descendants are still living and in these quarters, and so we find them using the place as their residence. And so we have the evidence today. Now, the next ghat, or the Champatola Ghat, has a very rich but different history from the others. It was actually started by the Bhagyakul Raj Parivar family, who came over from East Bengal and established a second residence here in Kolkata. And they were associated, many members of that family actually were associated with different kinds of sports. And in fact, they started the Kumotuli football club in 1919. They also helped start the East Bengal club when some players came for help because they were not allowed to join the other clubs, players of East Bengal. A surprising point is that they helped the Anushilan Samiti and Jugantar with not only money but also arms. And it was all done in secret because obviously otherwise they would be arrested. An interesting tidbit is that the pistol used by Khudiram in his attempt to assassinate Magistrate Kingsford was bought by money from the Bhagyakul family. And we are all familiar with the name of Pankaj Ray, one of the cricketing greats of Bengal. He is also said to have come from this same family. Next we come to Gola Ghat. Now, just like the previous ghats, one of the previous ghats had salt trade associated with it. The Gola Ghat had the jute trade association, and you can see the jute warehouses behind at the rear of the picture. And so the jute fiber would come downstream from what is now Bangladesh, because the main jute production would be in East Bengal of that time. So down the river they would come and they would be picked up at Golaghat, and those wet fiber would be dried on what is now the railway line. And then so you have the jute warehouses behind where it would be stored and then sent to the warehouse factories for manufacturing of jute products. Now, on the far side of the river, I hope you can see three chimneys together. The one chimney is one of the jute factories that is still running, and then on the right hand side a little bit, where you can see three chimneys, that is actually the first electric thermal power plant to supply electricity to Kolkata. It is actually near the Kashipur gun and shell factory, and it was commissioned in 1905. Obviously, it's no longer in working condition now, but we all felt that perhaps something could be done to, at least keep the structure and facilitate some kind of renovation, so that it can be remodeled and reused for some other purpose, maybe, or maybe just as a historical visiting site. After this comes the Jatra Bari or the Roth Bari Ghat. In the background, you may see a structure like a temple. That's what remains of it. And this was actually, this ghat was built by the Datta Chaudhary family. And in the 1800s, it was a cremation ghat. Now, there is a story in relation to the Datta Chaudhary family, which has a tragic note to it. For some reason, which I forget, the men of the Datta Chaudhary family were going to Pune. Now, at that time, there were no railroads to Pune, and it was actually this tragedy that first made the British government lay the railway lines to Pune from Kolkata. So the men went on foot, but to enable the women to travel a little more comfortably, they got passage in the ship which was named Sir James Lawrence. Just let me check. Which was named Sir John Lawrence. Now, unfortunately, this ship got caught in a storm in the Bay of Bengal, and it capsized and everybody drowned. 3 generations of the Datta Chaudhary family passed away in this. Now, because the bodies could not be recovered, effigies of them were burnt in accordance with the cremation rituals of the Hindus at that time. So this was again something which we are not very familiar with, this story. Now we are at Dharmatala Ghat. You can see this this site where we have a number of deities together. So this collection of deities, and in those olden times, perhaps it was a center of worship for all the different sects of Hinduism, because you have Lord Shiva, you have Bon Bibi, you have other deities, and this deity that you notice is colored saffron. This is called Boroma. Historical accounts are not very clear as to its origins of worship, but some people believe that it is a representation of the Buddhist Dhamma. Because the Buddhists believed that God is formless, they created this kind of statue, which actually, as per Ms. Chelsea McGill, is represented in different forms in different places, because as the Buddhists believe that God is formless. So this is another very interesting bit of news. Now, the Kumotuli Ghat, of course, we all know it as the ghat where the idols of goddess Durga were made. This was the point from where the clay was taken, and here you can see the scaffoldings as well as the models that are being constructed today. But apart from this, there is another association, the association with the first Ayurvedic practitioner of perhaps India, I don't know, definitely Bengal, Ganga Prasad Sen. Now, Ganga Prasad Sen was actually, he realized the way the allopathic medical practitioners were practicing their profession was bringing them more patients, and so he decided to use the same methods of dealing with the patients. That is, he formalized fees for home visits and chamber visits. He had specific days and times for his chamber, and people sometimes had to make formal appointments before meeting him, or such type. And another important thing is that he established the first Ayurvedic college, where the outgoing graduates had to take an oath that they would practice according to the formal rules that had been imparted to them during their course of study. So this is another interesting tidbit. And of course, we all know, especially Bengalis, we all know that Sri Ganga Prasad Sen was the person Sri Ramakrishna had gone to for his cancer treatment. This is the picture of Putulbari. Now, don't think that there were dolls here. It actually is Kolkata's haunted house, and it has a somewhat, what should I say, sleazy history. Now, it was built by some Bangladeshi zamindar as, again, a second residence in Kolkata. But in the 1970s, the caretaker who lived here used it for sex workers, and in fact killed some of them when disputes arose. And folklore says that, those spirits come back to haunt the house. But in fact, today there is a notice in front of the house saying that there are no ghosts here and it's not haunted, so kindly don't haunt the current residents of the house. Now, why the current residents? Because when the Bangladesh war broke out, it was taken over by the government as enemy property, and now the government rents out small apartments in that house. So yes, it has people living in it, and they are certainly not ghosts by any chance. I'm sorry, I forget which ghat this building lies behind, but it shows clearly how the descendants have been unable to preserve the building. The one part of the building in orange is obviously the descendants have maintained it. The second and the third parts are sadly in a very dilapidated condition, which is in fact quite a sorry state of affairs. Now, the Shubha Bazar Ghat was under the Port Trust, and history says that it was the building that you see behind. It was used as a supply depot, but the upper topmost story was empty. So some educated youths came and appealed to the trust to lend it to them for educational purposes, promising to educate the kids local kids in the area. So the government agreed, but then after some time the Khudiram incident took place, and somehow suspicion fell on these young educated Bengalis who were apparently taking classes there. So the topmost story was raided, and they not only found guns and ammunition, they also found 4 revolutionaries hiding in that supposed school. So naturally, it was shut down. Next we come to Ahiri Tola Ghat. Now the Ahirs were the milkmen, and there was a prosperous trading of milk here in this ghat, and that is why it is called the Ahiri Tola Ghat. But it has another history, and we walkers never even guessed. I mean, our guesses never came close to what had happened in reality. Boranagar Ghat and Ahiritola Ghat were actually places where the British, Spanish and Dutch ships brought slaves from Indonesia, Burma, Africa, and these slaves were bought not only by the British but also by wealthy Indians. But they were not known as slaves because by that time Great Britain had abolished slavery, and Queen Victoria had dictated that there would be no slaves, so they were called indentured laborers, which meant that they were given food and lodging, basically barely survival rations, and were not paid any salary. So that it's an almost criminal history in today's terms, and obviously never mentioned in the history books. We come to an end of this very interesting walk at Nimtola Ghat. The coinage of the name has two origins. It is believed that Charnock first landed here before he moved to the present Dalhousie Square, which was then Kolkata. And when Charnock writes in his own accounts that there was a big neem tree, and so the name perhaps comes from that. Or it could also be that it was named after, or the name of the Sufi saint Niyamatullah, who had established a mosque and was giving education and social messaging there. That his name got twisted in the local dialect and became Nimtola Ghat. It became a cremation ghat in 1870s, and because actually the British had wanted to stop the cremation here, but finally the Indians revolted, and they said that if you don't want, if you want to lessen the number of cremations, then build another crematorium in South Kolkata. And so that is what was done. So we have Karatala cremation grounds in South Kolkata and the Nimtola Ghat in North Kolkata. That brings us to the end of this fantastic walk that all of us, I'm sure, enjoyed. This walk has left us, at least me, enriched and eager to know more with the help of immersive trails. Thank you both Tathagato and Chelsea for a wonderful opportunity.